Heartbreak in the countryside. Labour's inheritance tax reforms have sparked outrage, but what GB News revealed this week is far more shocking. Farmer Clive Bailey exposed a devastating trend. Older farmers are contemplating drastic measures, including ending their own lives, to avoid the April 2026 tax changes. Martin Daubney called the revelations staggering and heartbreaking. And if you thought that was shocking, wait until you hear how farmers are planning to strike back. Folks, this story is spiralling into chaos, and it could bring the UK to a standstill. Keep watching. You don't want to miss this.
Yeah, it's all getting a bit dark, really, and quite concerning. Since we're involved in organising the rally in London a couple of weeks ago, obviously received thousands of messages from farmers for all sorts of reasons, thanking us for stepping up and doing something, or asking what the next move is, or where we're going to go from here, or what can be done, or telling me their own stories about how difficult it's going to be for them and how it's going to involve selling the family farm. But amongst those messages, there's been a number that are a lot darker, really, where people have sent me quite long messages explaining how, often a long, complicated family story and a kind of story of their farming history and what they've worked for all their lives. But basically, all with this same very kind of concerning message that, April 2026 is when these changes come in. These are older, kind of the older generation, kind of they're in their kind of 80s type age, and they're saying, they've worked out a simple solution to this is to make sure that they're dead before April 2026. And I mean, that's terrible to hear. We had the assisted dying bill go through Parliament at the end of last week, and it just struck me that I don't think the politicians realise what they've done here, particularly with this deadline. You've got these very practical thinking, very proud men that have spent their life or building up a business, and they're just seeing, okay, well, there is a solution, and that's where I'm going now. I'm no counsellor. I've found it very difficult to deal with these kind of messages myself. I've obviously signposted people in the direction of people who can help. There's some great farming help organisations like that, the Farm Community Network and RABI and Adlington Trust. So I've sent people in that direction, but I just really think it's not been this consequence. I hope unintended consequence by the government hasn't been thought through with setting this deadline.
I don't think this deadline has been thought through. The psychological impact on farming families is devastating. The upcoming tax changes, announced in Rachel Reeves's budget, will impose a 20% inheritance tax on farm estates valued above £1 million. Previously, agricultural property relief allowed farms to be passed down without taxation, ensuring the survival of multi-generational farming operations. But now, as the April 2026 deadline looms, the financial and emotional strain on the agricultural community is becoming unbearable. Farmers like Clive Bailey argue that the government's estimates of only 500 affected estates annually vastly understate the reality. The Central Association of Agricultural Valuers suggests the number could be as high as 2,500 farms each year. For many families, this means selling land or assets just to pay tax bills, potentially dismantling generations of hard work and legacy. While the government insists that 73% of farms won't be affected, a closer look at the numbers paints a grimmer picture. Analysis from the Country Land and Business Association reveals that a 200-acre farm could face an inheritance tax bill of up to £435,000, an amount requiring more than 150% of the farm's yearly profits to repay over a decade. For smaller family farms, the math simply doesn't add up. But the financial hardship is just the beginning. Anger is brewing, and it's about to boil over. On November 19th, thousands of farmers marched through central London, blocking traffic and demanding action. Despite the impressive turnout, Labour stood firm. DEFRA Secretary Steve Reed added fuel to the fire with his unapologetic remark, "It's hard to be sorry for taxing the wealthy to fix the NHS. That rally may have been peaceful, but plans for future protests are anything but." Anonymous farmers have hinted at a shift to French-style action, blocking supermarket distribution centres to disrupt food supplies. One farmer declared, "We could bring the country to a halt in 30 minutes. We have more equipment than the army. If they won't listen to reason, we'll make them listen to us." The proposed tactics are bold and divisive. Clive Bailey himself expressed concern, saying, "I hope it doesn't come to this. It's not something I'm organising, but I know others are planning it. One suggested method involves targeting out-of-town supermarket depots, sparing commuters while crippling supply chains. Another involves withholding food from farms to create empty shelves. Not everyone agrees with these extreme measures. Some farmers advocate for maintaining public support by focusing on peaceful campaigns. We are very fortunate to have the public on side. They're not the target, the government is, a Yorkshire livestock farmer stressed. However, others believe more drastic action is unavoidable. One Nottinghamshire arable farmer summed up the sentiment: "This government only listens when it's forced to." Empty supermarket shelves might finally get Labour's attention. The tension within the farming community reflects a larger dilemma. National Farming Union President Tom Bradshaw recently met with Keir Starmer and described the Labour leader as in listening mode. However, no concrete actions have followed. For many farmers, time is running out and desperation is setting in. Meanwhile, Labour faces mounting political pressure. Many rural MPs, particularly those representing constituencies that flipped to Labour for the first time in decades, are wary of the backlash. Kemi Badenoch's Opposition Day motion, set to challenge the tax changes, will be a key test of party unity. Any sign of rebellion could spell trouble for Labour's rural strategy. Adding to the stakes is the shadow of European unrest. French farmers, battling similar government policies, have blocked roads, dumped manure in town squares, and staged tractor convoys that paralyse cities. British farmers, watching these tactics unfold, are increasingly inspired to take similar action. The consequences of such protests could ripple far beyond the agricultural sector. Retailers like Tesco are already bracing for potential disruptions. The British Retail Consortium acknowledged the risk, stating, "Retailers are closely monitoring the situation and working hard to minimise customer impact." But farmers argue they've been pushed to the brink by policies that threaten their livelihoods and mental health. One mixed farmer captured the sentiment: "It feels like we're beyond the point of a well-behaved rally. If this is what it takes to save our farms, so be it." Labour, for its part, has defended the tax reforms as necessary for balancing public finances and ensuring wealthier estates pay their fair share. But for the families facing financial ruin, and in some cases contemplating far worse, the government's assurances ring hollow. The stakes couldn't be higher. As farmers prepare for their next move, the battle lines are drawn. Will Labour reconsider its position in time, or will the countryside's simmering anger erupt into full-blown rebellion? If this story has left you as stunned as us, hit subscribe and like this video for more updates. We're tracking every shocking twist and turn as the farming community fights back against Labour's tax plan. Don't miss out. This story is far from over.